Good afternoon and welcome everyone. My name is Sakina and I'm a representative on CCSGA's Inclusion Committee and one of the moderators for today's open forum. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of the Ute peoples. This institution and the American nation state it exists within were founded upon the erasure and exclusion of Indigenous peoples. In addition, we would like to acknowledge that this institution was created to serve a specific group of students, as is evidenced time and time again throughout the college's history. This open forum was organized by the Solidarity Coalition, which is a grassroots student organization that uses civil resistance, direct action, social media, to transform Colorado College into a just and equitable institution. We are not hierarchical nor static body. The coalition is an evolving collective of student leaders representing marginalized as well as privileged people across the campus community. Our members represent many causes, such as anti-racism, accessibility for people with disabilities, workers' rights, holistic education, among others. We strive to model and cultivate a campus that embodies transparency, accountability, integrity, equal opportunity, and treatment for all at the college, students, faculty, and staff. We are demanding answers on the lack of transparency and accountability regarding equity and inclusion efforts here at the college. In this forum, we hope to model the kind of practices we want to see the administration engage in with regards to the Antiracism Implementation Plan. We hope that through dialogue, the administration and the institution it serves can break free of the reactionary cycle they are caught in, and we no longer have to wait for something horrific to happen to address deeply entrenched racism on this campus. We want the entire campus community to submit their grievances today, and going forward, we hope to work towards making a plan to make CC an anti-racist and equitable place for all members of this community. We aspire to make CC an institution where everyone's voices are heard and valued, and that starts here today. We stand here today and we ask the college community to be deeply critical of everything that has happened in the last few months. Although we assume the best intentions of everyone involved, I cannot help but wonder whether the implications of any of the events of the last semester were thoroughly thought through. Without warning, many marginalized students were presented with not only the loss of one of the most important and supportive figures in our community, but also the complete indifference of the college administration. Were we as students not worthy of an explicit statement about this loss? Why were we left to find out about this by reading in between the lines of a plan sent out as a link in an email, which students notoriously don't pay attention to? Why are the voices of minority students not valued as much as the majority in discussions of anti-racism? These are just a few of the questions that we as a coalition have been grappling with, and questions that we wish the administration would hear. And so today, I hope that we can use this forum to ensure that the pain that we have felt in our time here at Colorado College is not felt again.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on this snowy, cold evening. I really appreciate that, and we really appreciate that. I'm Roma Elarian. I'm a senior. I'm a feminist and gender studies and sociology double major. I'm an international student from Egypt. I'm one of the co-leaders of Students for Justice in Palestine on campus. I'm one of the moderators of this forum today. I just want to begin with saying that I felt a great loss when Dr. Buckley got his position eliminated. And in result, he saw no choice but to resign from his job because of feelings of betrayal. Dr. Buckley was on the top of my list when I thought to myself, Rama, who has got your back in this institution? Whose door is always going to be open for you? And that was Dr. Buckley. Dr. Buckley helped me navigate a very tough situation with a professor at the beginning of this semester, of this year. He didn't only provide me mentorship and support, but a great working environment, as I've been also an intern at the Butler Center for the past 3 years. I saw his career at CC go uncelebrated and his departure go unacknowledged. This made me realize that I cannot expect a wealthy, white-dominated college to mourn such a loss, even if they claim to be anti-racist. When we sent him off in his farewell party, I realized that I was not the only student whose life, college experience were impacted by Dr. Buckley in this way. So, anti-racism, this is what we're here today. From my feminist and gender studies classes, I learned that decolonization and anti-racism are two processes that require constant work on the self, constant work on community, and constant reflection and critique. And I borrow here Ibram Kendi words from his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. Racist and anti-racist are like fillable name tags that are placed and replaced based on what someone is doing or not doing, supporting or expressing in each moment. These are not permanent tattoos. No one becomes a racist or anti-racist. We can only strive to be one or the other. We can unknowingly strive to be a racist, we can knowingly strive to be an anti-racist. Like fighting an addiction, being an anti-racist requires persistent self-awareness, constant self-criticism, and regular self-examination. What I saw until now is unthoughtful and uncareful and defensive planning and working on this anti-racist process. And I began to ask myself, who is this anti-racist initiative for? For marginalized people on campus or the majority of white students? This is some of the questions that have been screening on several screens in Warner Center and the library. How can I utilize my privilege to further anti-racist agenda? How do I react and respond to cultural differences? Do I believe races have biological differences? And you can see those are catered for white students, not catered for marginalized or people of color. Are we, people of color and marginalized communities, including students, faculty, and staff, always going to be used for our labor to make this institution anti-racist while feeling disposable at any given moment? Those are the questions that are honestly keeping me up at night, thinking about, I'm going to graduate this year, but thinking about the future of this college and international students and people of color and marginalized and underprivileged students coming for the next years. And I hope this open forum is a start to get answers for those questions. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shane Brown. I am the Senior Heads of State Representative in CCSGA and the former co-chair of the Black Student Union. I will also be moderating the forum tonight. When the Antiracism Initiative was launched, many of us were optimistic, convinced that after decades of fighting for racial justice in this institution, the college is finally awake. That after multiple instances of violence against students, staff, and faculty of color, Colorado College will finally back up its liberal sentiment with concrete action. However, it has become clear that that optimism was misplaced. I must echo my colleague's question. Who exactly is the Antiracism Initiative for? Because frankly, it doesn't seem to be for the students, and definitely not students of color. The fact that one of the most visible outcomes of this plan directly resulted in the departure of one of our most respected and dedicated community members speaks volumes. The fact that a top administrator dismissed the coalition's petition of over 500 signatures as representing a minority of students speaks volumes. And the fact that students, not administrators, had the plan to facilitate an open forum so that we can finally address this issue openly as a community speaks volumes. This should have been the first step, taken 2 years ago, hell, 10 years ago. But no matter, we're all here today, and we must take advantage of this opportunity and make up for lost time. We must begin the process of truly unifying and healing. But before we can do that, it all needs to be laid out on the table, the good, bad, and the ugly. Lastly, before we begin, I'd like the administrators in this audience to keep this in mind going forward. Every day, you all get to hop in your cars and go home. And put this place behind you until you clock in the next day. We don't get to go home. We don't get to escape this environment, and we don't get to forget about it. And that is why we're here. That's why we care so much, why we put in this work for free when you all drop the ball. I know you, and despite my language here, I do recognize that you are all good people who are just trying to do your jobs. So please, take this as an opportunity to learn how to do your jobs even better. So I thank you all for attending. Just remember that listening is the first step. And I thank all of you for taking the time to stand in solidarity with us, and for helping us turn CC into the progressive institution that we all know it can be. And now I'd like to introduce our colleague, Deirdre, who will be giving a short presentation on the history of racism at CC. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I want to give a brief presentation, as brief as I can make it, probably about 5 minutes. I want to acknowledge the content warning, and specifically I want to give this presentation to locate us, to figure out what this institution is, what this institution has been, what this institution continues to be, and to really recognize that this didn't just start in 2018 with the racist email. There's a long history to it, and today maybe you're going to learn about the history for the first time, and then question why you're learning about it right now for the first time. So there's a lot of blackface in this. If you need to leave the room, feel free to leave at any point. I'll be done in about 5 minutes. So in the 1900s, 1921, the Young Women's Christian Association had a circus titled the Raspberry Review. It was a minstrel show in front of Bemis Hall. As you can see on the left picture, today there are bike stands right behind that person on the left. 1922, senior minstrel show for senior men. There's a person on the bottom left and on the top right who are in blackface. More blackface. This was some of the stuff is hard to figure out exactly what it was about, but this is called the May Festival. They had this orientalized Middle Eastern attire for women, and then the men in blackface, circled in blue, picked out their favorite woman, all with oriental carpets beneath them. Place was stage called the Gazing Globe, and it just goes on and on. Football game that went down North Cascade Avenue. Blackface again. Another minstrel show. There's a homecoming parade. There's a tradition of homecoming parades here in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s blackface parades and being awarded who won the best. So Fiji won, so congratulations to them. And this was for homecoming, so this was a specific thing that was celebrated. Again, I want to emphasize, there's not a single black person in this picture. There are people in blackface in this picture. Reenactment of snake charmer, orientalist trope. More blackface, blackface, blackface. This is down on Tejo. In the 1960s, maybe not blackface here, but if you see the two women, written on them is slave. There's some auction that's being reproduced here. And then if we jump forward to the 2000s, another content warning, the N-word is used in the following slides. So if you do need to leave or put your head down or anything, just want to let you know. 2002, Catalyst published this article. Nickelodeon launches controversial new sister channel, N-word Nickelodeon. You can see the comic itself, where Rugrats were made black. You can read the caption underneath for yourself. The Gazette reported on this incident. The college president promised wide-ranging reforms and a new college president, but then most students at Colorado College graduated, some professors and staff moved on, a new college president has taken office, and the controversy faded. I want to point this out specifically because we don't want to see the same thing happen again today. This is 20 years later. There were similar things about wide-ranging reforms, trained faculty, staff, students on sensitivity to differences in race, culture, and other issues that has been increased. There was also an emphasis on Western civilization studies to include 3 required courses on non-Western courses for minority groups in the United States. Just keeping intact what there is, but then just adding, some people of color, some marginalized communities, as if there shouldn't be a scrutinization of the South in the first place. So, just like I said, the language of urgency and promising wide-ranging reforms is similar to the language we actually hear today. But that was almost 20 years ago, and these incidents have been reoccurring over and over again. In September 2007, a racist-themed party was held, started from where you're from, to rep your hood, and so on. And then 2 people were alleged to have gone to that party in blackface. Just a couple weeks later, this happened. Hockey players put on wigs, painted their faces black, played 9 holes of golf, dressed as the cast of Family Matters at the end of the first week of the first block. These are their faces, these are their names. And of course, fall of 2015, the Yik Yak incident. These are the screenshots. The student who turned himself in and was responsible for some of these comments, not all of them, was suspended. When he returned to campus just a few weeks later, he posted this photo. Clearly, his classmates thought this was okay to post as well. He's since graduated. And then, of course, in March of 2018, a racist email was sent out to a large portion of the student body, and that's why we're here today with the Antiracism Implementation Plan. The fact that most of CC students are unaware of this long history of racism at CC means that we have not even begun to reckon with what this place has been, what this place is, and what this place continues to be. There's also unequal access to this institution. As many of you know, the New York Times ranked Colorado College as the second, well, out of 38 colleges that had more students from the top 1% than the bottom 60%. Colorado College was second. You can read the stats here for yourself. You can see some of the trends. Now, I want to emphasize also that these racist incidents are only the most blatant form of racism. It is not as if there is no racism when these incidents do not occur. What I presented is simply easy to photograph and easy to document. However, racism is continuously present here and manifests itself in countless numbers of ways. This is one of them. Now, I'd like to just present some of the guidelines for dialogue before we open up to the floor. These are adopted from the Butler Center. Seek, number 1, seek to understand before being understood. Number 2, be aware of airtime. 3, assume best intentions, understand intent versus impact. Number 4, take responsibility for your own learning. This is a place to learn here today, people. 5, expect to be uncomfortable and make room for growth. 6, engage with the head and the heart. 7, honor individual experiences as real. There are no experts in anti-racism work. And just a final point, this is a space for students. This is a student open forum. The President's Cabinet can respond at the end. But until then, students can come up, share their experiences, share their frustrations, share questions, anything. This is a place for all of us, so please feel free.
So there is 2 mics on the left and on the right. Please feel free to go and ask any questions or say any comments. Faculty and staff are welcome too.
Hello, my name is Julio. I'm your favorite Hispanic student here at CC. And I have a couple of questions for the hallway administration. So, what makes you believe that you are qualified as an all-white administration that's probably rich to decide for us, the students of color, an anti-racism implementation plan? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm a sophomore here. And I guess my question is, why wasn't the search for the 3 different positions that were going to replace Dr. Buckley, why wasn't that started earlier, before the end of the year, given that it now has to go into the summer?
So what explicit training are we giving to professors to ensure that they have the ability discussion that is safe for students of colors and minorities? And furthermore, what are we doing to make sure that when instances happen, when teachers are not acting as anti-racist, that there is a direct response to it that's immediate and happens as soon as possible?
Also, it doesn't have to be questions. You can just go rant if you want. Do whatever. And yeah, I urge the administration to take notes because maybe it will get too much and too many questions to follow that. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I first want to thank everyone who's here doing all this amazing work. And I know that you're doing it for free. You're really putting your heart and your head into all of this. And I know you've been doing this for a very long time. And I just want to express my gratitude. I wish that you didn't have to be doing that. My question is, what was the process of including students, and particularly students of color, in creating the Antiracism Implementation Plan? I feel like I've heard a lot of comments that students weren't involved, and if that is the case, why was that, and what's your plan going forward in the future to be in communication with students on these issues?
Hi, I'm Hallie. I'm the Vice President of Inclusion for Student Government. And something that we have been dealing with is pushing for student voices on the search committees for example, the Big Three, which has been pushed back on a lot. And my concern is, what are you afraid of? Having students in that room. That should be something that has been actively seeking out. Not something that should be left for student government to do with like a week's notice. That kind of time crunch shows me that you're trying to force us to either find a token person and say this is all on you now, or not be able to find that and run out of time, and then conveniently there's no students on that committee. So I encourage you to take that action more quickly, to take notice of students you think might be a part of it, and to encourage deans to take that more seriously. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jocelyn. I use she and pronouns. My first question was, in previous drafts that the Antiracism Implementation Plan was sent out, the removal of Dr. Welker's position was not there. And I am curious as to why there has been that lack of transparency and why such big decisions are being made without actual implementation from people's knowledge. So, yeah.
Hello, my name is Onika Spad. I'm a junior here at CC. And I just had a very specific question from the actual plan. Page 8, this talks about the college readiness program that first will be launched for the local area, and then says that there will be a possibility that this initiative will extend to Southwest Native American students. But I was just concerned if with the recent renaming of Chappaqua, there was supposedly going to be the same pathway or the same college readiness program for youth students specifically. So I definitely invite admins to come and talk to NASU, maybe on Thursdays on the third floor, and answer these questions, because I frankly think that Native students can't wait until this program is successful. We don't know when that will be, and I'm really concerned, especially because numbers of Native students here have decreased, and that's visible because, or through recent, removal of the LLC, Revitalizing Nations, which is meant for Native students in South. have no numbers. So sadly, we had to see it go, but we don't want to wait any much longer, frankly.
Hi, I'm Edgar. I'm a senior this year, and to follow up on what Monique said, I was the RI for Revitalize Nation last year, and it was a very big part of my growth here at CC, being part of the Native community. I was very troubled to hear this past summer about Revitalize Nation and private being cut due to numbers, and I understand housing has a lot to deal with, especially with the influx of students. That brings me to a few issues. First of all, communication between admissions, housing, and also with this higher administration, just because that lack of communication. I remember talking to you, Jill, about what happened, and you weren't aware of that. That really shocked me, because if that's not being communicated within every part of the college, like that's not good. The second thing is that I know we've been having talks with Bethany and Taylor about housing right now, and we've had long conversations about this. But having this become more of an open, more open communication between students and how housing should be administrated. And we're also trying to get native house just because we've seen how students of color, especially, even though we may be known to be what can I say, separated from the persons away from the white community areas, so we take away diversity. I don't think that's a really good way to think about it, just because there's a lot of mental health reasons for that, and putting students with each other that are able to pick each other up is very important. And so that's why we're working on having a house, and that's been going slowly. I'm sure I didn't know you guys have been talking about it, but we don't hear anything about that.
Hi, I'm Saluja. Just a request from the back. Can you all speak into the mic because it's really hard to hear? I hope I'm audible. I'm Saluja, she, her, hers. I'm an environmental science major. I'm a junior. I recently got elected as vice president of Student Life, but I'm also an RE, and I'm also involved in a few other clubs on campus. When the racist incident happened at the hockey house party last year, I was one of the students who confronted that incident, and at the same time, I was also serving as one of the two students who was on the committee for the Robeson Arena. I was really startled by what had happened, especially given the commitment to build this Robeson Arena and try to make it inclusive by having students like me in the committee, and at the same time having to confront that incident. I wrote an email to the board who was involved about the frustration, and the only person who got back to me was Dr. Buckley. And I didn't hear anything from anyone who I'd addressed a really lengthy email to. A few months later, I was reached out by the president's office asking if one of the arts I had submitted could be printed for CC's postcards, greeting cards. And I felt cheated. I felt there's a very selective way of being inclusive on this campus. And I felt tokenized, and I feel that that's a certain level of frustration that is shared by a lot of international students on this campus, a lot of marginalized bodies on this campus, and I'm curious to hear what the administration is going to do about this selectivity of inclusion.
My name is Katie Bai, and I'm an international student from China, and I just want to share a little bit of my personal experience here. So when I first came here, I participated in the ISO, the International Student Orientation, and during the sessions, the trainers told us that in the US, They hold doors for people. They smile at each other. They say, "How are you?" to each other very often. They made it sound like as if that's what makes us, as if that's what we need to do so that we can make ourselves somehow like fit into the environment here, somehow like to be like as civilized as people here. After that, a year after that, I attended a training session for a particular on-campus job, and in that session, I was singled out and asked to tell others what's the biggest cultural shock that I got here. The trainer constantly said that the international students are super different. They don't want to engage in campus activities. They need to be treated as if they are like super differently, as if they're aliens in some kind. And I want to say here that xenophobia is also a type of racism. Well, I understand that behind this kind of discourse, this hierarchical thinking, there is a colonial history that has lasted for several hundred years. I understand that it is a recurring problem that exists globally, but I wonder what current college can do to mitigate its harmful impact on CC students. And when I read the final Antiracism Implementation Plan, I did not feel protected. And today, instead of asking you all to like police the rules and boundaries and regulate behaviors, I invite you all to make an effort to think about what anti-racism means, to try to understand our struggles, to feel the pain that marginalized groups are constantly feeling. Instead of pushing this very narrow anti-racism plan, I would wonder if there is a potential to be more inclusive and to build community across campus. And I really want to work with you all to make that happen. Thanks.
Hi everyone in the first year. I just want to talk about how the word transparency has been used a lot in regards to like this whole plan and everything that's been going on. And I just want you guys to kind of hold yourselves to that standard of transparency, because I feel like it might be because I'm a first year and I'm new here, but I certainly don't understand like the workings of the college and like how these decisions are made, like how, like what the drafts of the plan looked like, and what it looked like to like revise and like work on this kind of thing. And so like you guys keep talking about transparency, but then I don't see any of it, like, and I don't see like information being put out. And like even as an anecdote, I went to a homecoming event last year for alumni. It was about how to get CC graduates to have their kids apply to CC and get in. It was mostly white parents, but they were very concerned about like the economic stratification at the school. And the person leading the presentation was very, very, very hesitant to answer the questions openly and honestly. They were very much trying to steer the conversation away from the fact that there's so much privilege at the school and such a high disparity between the richer and poorer students. And it was almost like embarrassing to like watch happen, because I could see that the parents could like tell the person trying to steer the conversation away from this hard topic, but they wanted to talk about it. The parents who see the alumni, they are also concerned about this. So you can, open the dialogue more to like everyone who wants to hear more, I think.
Hello, my name is Carissa. I'm one of the co-chairs for NASU, and there were 3 things I wanted to discuss and ask. The first thing, I saw that there was a comment about having student leaders receive training, and I wanted to add that I feel that's very important. As a co-chair this year, I didn't have a lot of experience, and a lot of the cabinet were seniors, and they all left. And so being able to have a club be successful, it's necessary that we do have training, so I like that part. I also saw that in the report, it said that they helped Native students over the summer, and I want clarification about what was done to help Native students. I was here over the summer and I was not contacted. I am Navajo, and I know that there were several students who were also here who were not contacted. So I want to know what was done and
just be more, like we talked about, transparent about what's happening. Also, along that, I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase this, but a lot of the things listed in that section sounded like quotas or like check boxes, like yes, we've helped this, or we've done this. And I know what we're trying to do, but the phrasing of that made me uncomfortable. Finally, I like that we have this opportunity to share, but I don't feel that this is the best space to do it. Coming here and like blocking off and like people sitting on the floor, it's obviously people are interested and want to share their views, and so it should be a little more comfortable to do so. Thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Gracia. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about what the last person was just saying. So I was a Pretty Trip leader this year for new students, and we talked a lot about why we have a diversity requirement on Pretty Trips. We talked a lot about why it's important for us as a college and as these student leaders that are, welcoming first years into this school to have at least one international student on every trip, things of that sort of nature. And personally, I don't think that I was properly trained, honestly, to create the most welcoming environment because I am not a student of color. I don't face the same barriers, and I have a lot of privilege coming up here and speaking about this, and I know that. And so about training students, I think that we need to focus a little bit less on why is it important that we include people of color on these Pretty Trips, because they're pretty small groups. It's like 10, 11 students per group, and more on what can you do, what can I do, because in that position, I am in a sort of, position of power, and I don't feel like I had the tools, really, to further an anti-racist implementation plan. And, now, this year, I'm probably going to reapply for that position, and I don't really know how to have that conversation with my trippies. I don't really know how to say, yeah, our school does have an anti-racist implementation plan, but it's not very good. I don't know how to have that conversation. There's nothing concrete that I can say, and I don't have the training to say it in a way that's better than just, yeah, we have this plan and it's not very good. So.
Hi, Aiden. My question goes along with other people's points about transparency. I was wondering, what does the lack of communication and outreach with the student body about the implementation of the anti-racism plan say about the administration's willingness to address underlying and explicit racism at CC for the sake of students, faculty, and staff, and other individuals on campus, rather than for the institution's image?
Hi, I'm Nathan. I'm one of the RAs on this campus, and while a lot of this stuff is not personally hurting me, I've seen a lot of stuff, especially in my capacity as an RA, that has me really concerned. My main question is I just kind of wanted to ask the board to make crystal clear what their intentions, what their goals are for CC, because I'm seeing a lot of actions versus words here, where even though there's a lot of preaching about changing things and fixing systemic problems, I feel like CC is being treated a lot more like a business, and students, especially students of color, are being treated like a commodity, where we're being stuffed in at the freshman year. We have forced triples, not advertised, and when it comes through, it's just it feels like we're putting a lot of time into the school, and the school is not valuing the things that us students bring to it.
Hi, I'm Sulin. I'm a junior and I'm an international student from Singapore. Just out of curiosity, who here is from the administration? Can I have a show of hands? Thank you so much for coming. I really do appreciate it, and thank you so much for organizing this, because I do feel like as a very reserved student, I don't really know how to get about talking about the experiences that I have. So this one's coming from the mental health and basically that job. counseling center, and I would like to say that being someone who needs such services, and then as an international student who has just finished paying her taxes, and like I need the school services here, and I do need very consistent services in that sector. But I do feel like there are some areas in which I didn't know how to navigate in my career here so far. For example, there was this counselor that said some very insensitive things to me, and I did complain. I did bring it up to the Wellness Resource Center head, and then she referred me to the head of the Counseling Badger Center. And I don't know, I would say that the head of the counseling center was just as bad as the initial counselor that I had. And yeah, it's just some very insensitive comments. I think I can share some. For example, the head of the counseling center said to me, like, because I was talking about some of my friends now saying they're from other countries, like Costa Rica, Chile, Nepal, and he said something like, oh, those weird countries. I was like, how can you say that? I'm also not from here. Is that a weird country? Or like, because I was in a very low mood, the lady counselor that I was initially with, she tried to get me speaking, and so she was asking me about, oh, how are you feeling about the protest in Hong Kong at the moment? That was like last semester, and I was like, oh, no, I'm not from Hong Kong. Just to like straighten things out, I'm not from Hong Kong. And then she said, oh, but still they're your people. So I really do hope that the administration, people here, please do something.
Hi, I'm Flora. I'm a sophomore sociology major, and I'm also an RA in Matthias this year. And I would just sort of like to call attention to and/or question the intentions of the institution and the administration itself. In terms of the Antiracism Implementation Plan and the big ticket word of anti-racist institution, that feels like a marketing scheme. It feels like people of color are being commodified, tokenized, and sold as postcards, as tokens, objects. There's a quota at CC for how many people to accept people of color. There is. And there's also the concept of carbon neutrality, where we purchase carbon offsets from low-income areas and just restrict the carbon footprint that can be made in those areas. These are marketing schemes, and so the intention of the college is to make money. And it makes sense that we elected President Tiefenthaler because she does have her PhD in the economics of higher education. It does make sense. But shouldn't the goal of a higher institute of education be to create students that can be good civil citizens of a larger global society, rather than making money? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brianna Conwell. I'm a recent CC grad in December. And I've been here, I finished my 9th semester this fall, so I've been on campus for 5 years. I've seen a lot, and I just kind of felt that I've worked in admissions for 4 years now, and there's a lot of things I can't disclose to for legal reasons because there's NDAs in the office. But there's one thing that's really been sitting on my mind for multiple years, and it was a talk I had with a staff member
about being a student of color on campus and what that means and how to go about doing that work honestly and doing it crucially honestly. And he was talking to me and he was just like, you know, we have positions in this office where the rate where people stay is so short, and it's so often roles where we're trying to encourage students of color to come to campus. And he looked at me and he said, Brianna, why do you think that people don't stay in this position? And I said, why? And he said, because there are people above my position of power that don't want me and people who feel this way, people who are in those positions of power, to do that work, to get students of color here, to make them happy, to feel them safe, and make them feel comfortable. There are people above the Office of Admissions who don't want CC to turn that way. And what I want to know is, one, why someone said that to my face. I mean, one, why someone said that to my face. Two, why is it something that's felt in the Office of Admission, where we're supposed to be the happiness on campus, we're supposed to be the people that are so honestly wanting people to come here. I can't be in that position and talk to students of color and say you're going to be wanted here, when there are people in positions of power that I don't even know about, who apparently don't want you here. So what does that mean? How do we go about having these talks? And on top of all of that, why is that a conversation that I have to shut up about when talking about CC? Why is this not a conversation that's talked about all over campus? I just don't get it.
My name is Grace Canto. I just want to know what the logic is behind having every single professor, the majority of which are white men who have no training at all in race studies, come up with a syllabus for a class that they would teach that has to do with race and teaching students about race. They have no authority to teach that. They have said themselves, and I've heard multiple professors, white professors, admit that they didn't know what they were doing when they made that syllabus. They didn't want to make the syllabus. They know that they had no right to talk about any of the stuff that they would have to talk about if they taught that class. So who made that decision? Why did you make that decision? And who did you talk to before you made that decision? That's all.
Hi, my name is Nee Lam. I'm a resident of Enclave, a hall full of POCs in Matthias. And I recently participated in helping hiring a Asian Lit professor for the tenure track. And I had asked somebody in the English department why there couldn't be more than one Asian Lit professor. And I was told that one is more than zero, so there are other needs, and the money needs to go to other places with other needs, and this isn't an urgent need, so one's enough. Thank you.
I had more to say. Well, here goes to my question to the administration. How can we make sure that the next president, because as we all know, President Jill got accepted into National Geographic, so congrats to that, congrats to her, congrats. So how can we make sure that the next president doesn't suffer the same shortcomings in terms of the anti-racism? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aisa Hussein. I'm a junior. I use he, his pronouns, and I am curious about a couple of things. And I'm sorry if my voice is a little shaky or if my mouth is a little dry. It must be the flight or flight response because I am feeling it. The first of which is, I would like to know, what training and learning is the administration doing besides putting events to address racism for students and faculty and staff, yet not showing up to any of them? Why does it seem like it is our job to fix the racist problems at SSE with questions on campus TVs? Are you reading the questions and thinking about those questions because it doesn't feel like it? Do you think that different races have biological differences? Do you? I don't know. Secondly, how can you endeavor to have an anti-racist implementation plan or an anti-racist agenda on a system on the block plan in which this rule is built upon, where students who are marginalized, specifically low-income students who happen to be disproportionately students of color, have to work to send money home? And this is a very personal thing for me, because I don't have the option to do, 3 hours of homework for 1 hour of class a day. I don't have that option. I have to work and send money home. What is up with the disproportionate elitism and racism that comes within the block plan itself, and why hasn't that been examined yet? Thank you.
Hi. I'll be short so you can be yours. Hi, my name is Anna Sophia. I'm a sophomore here. I'm also an international student. I just have a question more about follow-up. I really resonate with what Shane was saying, that while a lot of the faculty and staff and administration get to go home every day after work, we have to stay here. And that's why there's a huge body of students who really care about making this their place, the 4 years that they're living here. As Fiki was telling us, this is not the first time Antiracism Implementation Plan has been tried to be created. And so my question is sort of, what proposal do you have to continue these conversations in the future for maybe like open forums? How do you plan to create that accountability that you will involve students, faculty, and staff of color in this whole process?
Hi, this isn't a question, it's more of a comment. If y'all remember when Vicky showed the New York Times article and talked about how there's a big disparity between a large population of students in the top 1% and a lower population in the bottom 60%, I just want to give an example of like how that can actualize at CC. Me and 4 other people, we're all women of color. We all had signed up to be a part of like a senior cottage. And this isn't talking about whatever housing did, because that's a whole other thing, but just about the options that were offered to us, because we are all people who are either on financial aid or full financial aid. It put us in a very vulnerable position, and so we didn't really have that many options to explore like what other housing options we could have. So that's just an example of like how it's not just a number, people are actually impacted by that population, that I guess population disparity.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm the former co-chair of Somos. I was the co-chair for like 2 years. And I use she, her pronouns. And just to like not give you all the resume, I'm married to it, because I could rant for like 10 minutes, honestly. So one of my first things that I wanted to address was why the anti-racism implementation plan didn't really gear towards what students actually want and need on this campus. So like for example, like I just kind of want to like, I guess, like back up what some of the things that some of the other students have said. So for example, like at the counseling center, I've been there several times and I have never felt fully supported, and I've even visited a Black counselor there, and even then I still did not feel as supported as I should have been. So maybe thinking about how anti-racist strategies could be placed in like in the department where students are wanting to visit all the time, could be put into thought for this plan. Also, I'm not gonna get into that checklist. Yeah. But also, what systems will be put in place for professors of color? Like, as of right now, there isn't a large, there isn't very many of them, and I've talked to like several of them one-on-one, and they feel like there is a lot of pressure on them because all of the students of color go to them for support, and I feel like there isn't anything to support those professors. So what are you guys going to put in place to help those professors? Also, I would like to address the party culture here because I have been kicked out of, not even kicked out, I wasn't even let in about like twice just this past semester, just because I'm brown. And for other reasons, and I could go into that, but I don't want to take up too much time. So maybe start to address with, like obviously party culture isn't that large here, but it is something that students are actively participating in. So once again, like trying to think about things that students actually need on campus and not just these strategies that are being made just to kind of make the college look better. Also, I wanted to ask why Dr. Buckley, who has a PhD in diversity and inclusion, wasn't ever asked about the anti-racist plan, or wasn't ever, I guess, asked for like his opinion on this. It very much feels like y'all kind of just left him out for a reason, and I would like to know what that reason, what that reason is. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about block breaks and like holidays. It is mostly students of color that are kind of forced to stay behind and not really partake in like lots of activities, mainly due to either financial reasons or just being in a tough class and not feeling like doing anything, right? We just want to stay at home, relax after a tough block. But we have students who have the luxury of going out and doing whatever with lots of resources. That's not my problem. My major problem is what happens here on campus. During these breaks, things are closed. Right, during these breaks, where it is known that you do have some white students that stay on campus, at least due to the courtesy of having things open as they would on a regular block schedule, right? Due to the courtesy of having the store open normal hours, having the C-store open normal hours, so we don't have to find our way to go out or at least Uber Eats, spend $30 for a meal. While we could, I mean, things are expensive at CC, but I wouldn't mind spending my meal playing card, whatever money's on there, right? So I'm just asking, what are things that the administration is talking about, working on that could help students at least feel at home when they do decide, I can't go skiing over block break.
Hello, my name is Martrice Ellis. I'm a junior here at CC. And I really just have a lot of statements, not more so questions. And I wanted to start off by a definition of anti-racist because I think it's interesting that we're sitting here discussing the anti-racist plan without defining exactly what it is. And I'm quite frankly interested in what definition you guys used when you came up with this anti-racist plan. So I'm going to read a definition by Ibram X. Kendi, and he says, to be anti-racist is to think nothing is behaviorally wrong or right, inferior or superior, with any of the racial groups. Whenever the anti-racist sees individuals behaving positively or negatively, the anti-racist sees exactly that. Individuals behaving positively or negatively, not representatives of whole races. To be anti-racist is to de-racialize behavior, to remove the tattoo stereotype from every racialized body. Behavior is something humans do, not races do. So I want you to look at your administration. Look at the makeup of it. Is that being anti-racist? The fact that you don't have everyone represented to make these decisions is not being anti-racist. The fact that you had to have researchers come in and basically tell other people of color that CC has a number of racist things when we already know that, but they need just to prove it to you that CC has a lot of racist things, that is not being anti-racist. The fact that we basically have to come up here and ask you for permission when in fact we fund this institution. We fund your jobs. This is our school. The fact that we have to ask you for permission to change the policies and provide for us the environment that we have to wake up every day. You don't. You only work here for a couple hours at the home. That's not being anti-racist. I'm really curious as to what definition that you use, because to me, in all honesty, that plan was in fact racist and just reinforced institutionalized racism at CC. The fact that you're not acknowledging the history of CC and that you're hiding it, that you bring back students who blatantly disrespect the people of color here at CC is not being anti-racist. The fact that you use the term people of color instead of acknowledging the separate things that people in marginalized communities go here at CC is not being anti-racist. So I want you to ask yourself if the stuff that you have done in these past couple of months is being anti-racist. And lastly, I want to say that firing the single man that really did anything to push anti-racist is not being anti-racist.
Hello, my name is Jay Lucky, pronouns they, them, theirs. I'm a Bridge Scholar, a Quest Bridge Scholar, and a first-year representative on the Student Life Committee in CCSGA, as well as a member of the Solidarity Coalition. When I was matched to Colorado College through the National College Match, I was promised a zero-cost private education. However, as I have heard from the experiences of upperclassmen in my same situation, as well as in my own experience before I even stepped foot on campus, this is not the case. And still, I'm one of the lucky ones. When I have to go to two separate offices trying to secure aid for a block of rock, which I have been told is integral to the CC experience, the best response I get is somewhere between it's not that big of a loan and try finding a third-party scholarship. Great. When I hear that, I'm still one of the lucky ones. The financial aid at this institution is deeply incomplete. And that can be seen in the demographics demonstrated in our presentation. Overwhelmingly white, overwhelmingly wealthy, even during the admission process. On the subject of finances, it's important to note the fact that the college has to take out a private loan to pay for approximately half of the Robson Arena, if I have not been mistaken, whose construction, as you can clearly see outside, is unearthing the grounds atop a quad mere weeks after being blessed. That being said, how will you be changing your fiscal structure and your fiscal management in order to facilitate financial equity among low-income students, making sure to meet the full needs of students of color, Indigenous students, LGBTQ+ students, students with disabilities and chronic and acute illnesses, and international students? Thank you.
Hey y'all, I'm Megan, she, her, hers, and I just kind of wanted to take some time to address the elephant in the room, which is that CC can never be anti-racist until it is anti-capitalist, and we are really not seeing any moves toward that in the implementation plan. So Manuel Uribe, who couldn't be here tonight, he's a sophomore, he wrote something that he asked me to read to everyone about sort of what anti-capitalism can look like at CC. Many of the college's goals seem to me very tangible, feasible, and impactful goals that we are capable of working towards. However, a part I see missing again and again is discourse on anti-capitalism as an essential element of anti-racist work. It seems to me that the college is attempting to solve its racism under an oppressive guise of generosity, raising funds to improve CC's socioeconomic diversity. But that does not take it upon itself to change the very structure that forms CC, which is oppressive capitalism. The college clearly wants to keep its expensive price tag while throwing financial aid to students who can't afford to attend this institution. It's obvious that most of the money invested in this college does not go towards our actual education, but towards the maintenance of a lifestyle that our wealthy counterparts are accustomed to, with unnecessary luxuries such as Lollapalooza, local, midnight breakfast, imported grass, etc. CC's work of generosity only maintains its position as an oppressive and racist institution. Does nothing to change the economic exploitation and systematic corruption which makes it so that this campus can be composed of a student body with such polarized economic incomes. It does nothing to address the fact that this college will continuously attempt to attract wealthy students for their money while remaining a space of exclusion and perpetuating the systems of oppression on which it was founded. Generosity is not distribution of wealth. Generosity is an illusion of equality. So, ending on that note, I think it's a great thing that Manuel wrote. Students, especially wealthy students that are sort of asking questions about what steps can I take to be anti-racist, what steps can I take to be anti-capitalist, redistribute your wealth.
So I'm going to take Mama's opportunity to rant. Before I do that, I really do want to thank all the students who organized this. It's been heartbreaking to see you guys crucify yourselves like this. Also knowing, and like knowing some of you personally, yeah, it's been hard to watch you guys crucify yourselves like this. And it's sad that like the administration is just watching this happen. Okay, so I might tear up, so excuse me, but I just want to narrate some of the experiences I've had. I'm a senior. I should have introduced myself. I'm 9th grade. I'm a senior. So yeah, I'm not going to speak about all of the racism that I've experienced in the 4 years that I've been here, but just some noteworthy, just some highlights of my time here. First year pretty trip. I hated my pretty trip. I think it was almost all white. And I said something, and this white boy looked at another white boy and said, "What the fuck did you just say?" As if it couldn't be understood. A week later, my friend and I were sitting in Captain Mormon, and we're two brown women, and we were one of the first people in the theater, and all of the rows in front of us and behind us were filled before people stood next to us. Also, at least I felt that Colorado Springs is incredibly segregated. And so being in CC also means that we only get to see the people of color at CC, which is a very unsettling experience in and of itself. 7th block of my first year, hockey boys, which I will come back to again in my 3rd year, harassed a black woman of color professor relentlessly, were openly disrespectful to her, would not listen to her. In all of my time, I'm a math econ major, in all of my time at CC, I've taken a class with only 2 econ professors, one of whom is a man of color, and the department is pretty white. That being said, okay, so I'm going to fast forward a bit. 3rd year, Hockey House, Dr. Bucky was the only person who reached out to us, and I think that's been said before. It was on the eve of my birthday that we were pushed out, aggressed out of the Hockey House, and not one person from the administration reached out to us. That being said, I think my time at CC has also been characterized by the exploitation of my own labor, and now suddenly, I'm being referred to by students who want certain internships, certain jobs, whereas I never got that kind of mentorship when I was a junior. I don't think I can finish this list, but yeah, thank you guys, and thank you guys for your work.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicolette Gordillo Riviere. I'm a junior. I'm an RA in South Hall. I am a representative on the Inclusion Committee and co-chair of EQUAL, which is the sole queer student group on campus currently. I just wanted to come up and emphasize the work and labor and hours and tears that marginalized students on this campus, especially students of color, are constantly having to deal with. The amount of pain I've seen take place at this school in the past 2 years I've been here, the amount of emotional labor students have to deal with due to the misguided actions and inactions of the administration is appalling. I know to many of the members of the administration that this plan is to make progress for CC in the long term, which is important, but you need to know that there are students here, now, in this room, struggling on a daily basis due to your actions or inaction. There are students who struggle to continue attending this school every day. There are students whose college experience is defined by needing to be involved in anti-racist work and anti-discrimination work because of conditions here. Students here right now do not feel safe, appreciated, or welcome here. You are thinking years and years in the future, which is important, but you have students suffering right here, right now, and we are the ones fighting for these changes, so you owe us some respect. You owe us transparency, and you should listen to us like we know what we're talking about, because we do. I want you to think about the hours that marginalized students spend doing this work. For example, the ones that organized this forum and wrote the letter that led to this forum. How many hours do you think that took? How many late nights do you think that took? Or what about how almost all of the RAs had to spend half-block organizing and threatening to strike due to a racist action taken by administration while still doing winter training and bulletin boards and door declarations. And in case you forgot about the block plan, while innovative, is notoriously difficult emotionally, mentally, and physically. And these students do all of this on the block plan. So I want the administration to keep that in mind when they're making these plans. I transferred here at the beginning of last year, and after everything I've seen and had to deal with, I sometimes wish I had never even discovered this school. And I tell everyone I know that, and every person interested in the school that I need that. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, and I hope you know.
Hi, my name is Yuli. I'm also an international student from China, and I want to ask a pretty specific question about Chinese international students. So this is a program called GSP, which is called Global Scholar Program, and this is a block before college started for new students. But every year there are only Chinese students in this so-called global program, paying around $7,000 tuition. However, while the intention is to help international students, so-called international students meeting, this program isolates Chinese students and only provides them a space to socialize with each other. Even though personally I didn't attend this program, but I have heard lots of Chinese students struggling to fit in the actual college environment after they experience this bubble. And during my freshman year, when I went to counseling center to share my socialization anxiety, the counselor asked me, "Don't you have Chinese students? Don't you Chinese students always hang out together?" And also every year the requirement for global scholar program changes, but those who are required to take this program will not be admitted by this school if they don't attend. So I'm wondering if you can share some transparency of how this program works and how they select students to attend this program. And just to quote from another Chinese student, Michael Xu, it's just we Chinese students as a cash cows for the community.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline. I am a senior here at CC. What I want to share is, again, less of a question, but more of a statement about memory, particularly selective memory at this institution, and how Colorado College chooses to expose certain things about our history when it's convenient, and at other times, burying that beneath the soil. And I'm so thankful to people who are organizing this event and to Vicky for putting that together. I think it's shocking, almost disgusting. I think that I have never heard any of that. Shocking. And I think that it is almost manipulative to tell a student body that this plan is revolutionary and different when attempts at something like this have been made in the past. You know, I think that it's important to acknowledge that, to build upon those things, to learn from those things, and to start to act as though we are starting from nowhere is something that is so, I think, disheartening to me. I also think that in talking about the source of a plan like this, the fact that it was a response to an anti-racist email, to a racist email, my bad. I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that it was also in response to the labor of students and faculty and staff who showed up and showed out and put in blood, sweat, and tears to defend their humanity on this campus. I was a part of that, and that was hard. And that needs to be spoken about, that needs to be acknowledged. That is what you were responding to. You were responding to us and not an email. There is work that is being put into that, and that needs to be remembered. It needs to be a part of this legacy, and it needs to be talked about when we're moving forward. Thank you.
So we just wanted to talk about student jobs on. We wanted to talk about student jobs on campus, and is that worse? We were coming up as a group. Yeah.
So we want to talk about student jobs on campus. And how only a certain type of student at CC would even be willing to work for during their college experience at all. And how just this can create work environments that aren't conducive to the college's goals of anti-racism, and how they want to, and how the administration is going to work on that from all levels, from student workers to the administration itself.
Yeah, I can give a few examples. If you don't remember me, I've heard. I've had multiple jobs each year of my time here at CC. I work the library and continue to work the library. I'm very grateful for being able to be in that environment. However, I see there's a huge disparity of more students of color that do work, and I don't think it's no coincidence that students of color that are actually more financially burdened. For me, I do have to work as an RA to pay off my tuition, and even with that, I still have to pay a little extra each year. When I was promised like good financially impacted my freshman year, I had to continue to worry about having to pay me each year. It's not fun, and financial aid was playing with my heart last year because they told me I had to pay $10,000 and $10,000. I can't bring that up until they're like, oh wait, no, I'm just kidding. It's like by then I was like already looking frantically for jobs, frantically looking to see any other loan options. Talking to my parents, having just be worried because it's my senior year. Like I want to spend it here, but like the fact that I had to worry about that and stress out over that on top of my classes, and I'm a math major, and that's not easy here. So,
Yeah, and just one last thing, like I've only been on an all students of color staff one time, and it was because none of us could afford not to do it, and it was RA on Western Ridge. Every single student who worked in that position when I started was a student of color. And so just understanding that many people are having to work because there's not another option. Like I know there are countless RAs who physically could not be here at this school if it weren't for that position. And we know that we can't do anything wrong or we're gonna get fired. So I actually ended up stepping down at the end of this semester just because of how I felt about the position. It was atrocious. I did not feel respected, and many of us on that staff in particular were just sitting there all the time, just like looking at each other like, wow, what a coincidence that every single one of us is a student of color here on campus, and that all of us do not have an option other than to work this job to stay here. So.
Okay, my name is Chloe, and I'm very nervous to talk about this because we've never really talked about it outside of like a really close relationship. So last semester, I'm a freshman, so last semester I was contacted to do a interview video on me for the Strode, Colorado thing, because I'm from the Springs, and like as a freshman, you're like, oh yeah, that's so cool. We want to put me on the website. We want to do all this stupid special stuff and everything. And it's great for like a resume and everything. But over the past couple of weeks, it's just like, I feel so tokenized here. And I feel like, I'm sorry. here. And it's like, I should feel normal. I don't come from like this really poor family. My family's like average income in Colorado Springs, but it's like, I feel like I was made as a commodity to sell this school for people, for white people that want to be woke all the time. And it's like, just because you want to be woke doesn't mean anything. Like, actually take the steps, and like sending your kid to this school doesn't mean anything. And I feel like I was sold, like, and I had the beginning of Half Block, someone comes up to me and they're like, oh, Chloe, we can sell your story for this program. And it's like, I don't want to be sold. Like, I'm a normal person. I'm not the black girl that struggled in the ghetto or something. Like, I grew up a very nice life, and it's like, I feel like that. And it's like, I don't want to be like that. So, it's just getting to me, and I hate talking about it because I feel so ungrateful. And it's like, this school's paying like $300,000 for 4 years for me to be here. And I should be so happy that I'm one of the kids that got the scholarship. And it's like, I can't fully embrace that, because if I complain, I feel so bad, because most people don't get an opportunity like this. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hi everybody. My name is Alexandra, and I actually graduated. I went here, and I work here now as a paraprof, and I just want to take this opportunity to also speak on behalf of staff and alumni, especially young staff who are paraprofs who just graduated. When I was a student, there were myriads of instances where I was failed, where I was aggressed towards, where racist things were said to me or behaviors were enacted against me. And it hasn't changed being a staff member. And just, you know, a reminder that staff, especially in kind of the most subordinate positions of power, like paraprofessionals, suffer instances of racism continually as well on this campus. To be honest, I feel even less heard as a staff member than I was as a student. And it's incredibly hard for me to grapple with this huge struggle within me that I feel, because I feel like I'm now part of an institution that aggresses against me, and yet I'm also the face of it. I have to hear every day from students who come to my office and sit across my desk from me and come to me for support, talking about the racism they face in the classroom or on campus. And I have to sit there and defend professors in my department, or talk about how it'll be okay and assuage their fears and refer them to somebody else because I'm part of the institution now, and I'm on the other side of the desk, and I have to say vague, non-committal lines about diversity and inclusion. And I want to be a resource to people who look like me, and it's almost impossible to do that when I still don't feel welcome here as a staff member of color and continue to face what I faced as a student. And if anything, it's gotten worse. Speaking as well on behalf of alumni, there's so many alumni who are really angry, who are really upset about what's going on, but they're not here. And when they're not here, their voices aren't heard. In the presentation, there was a mention of the whole Yik Yak incident, and that was in my freshman year. The vast majority of current students here have no idea really what that is, what happened. They weren't there for that. And once students graduate, the controversy dies around specific incidents, and it feels like the administration capitalizes on that, because if no one's here to talk about it, then you don't have to address it. I have the privilege of still working here and being able to see with my own eyes what is going on, but others who went here don't have that privilege. What kind of accountability will be demonstrated by the college to communicate to alumni what the college is actively doing to continually combat racism on this campus? Despite it all, I honestly did love being a student here most of the time, and I want to be proud of my degree and my time here, to say that I graduated from and that I work for Colorado College. I want to be able to tell young people of color that are thinking about coming here that they should, and right now I don't think I can. Thank you.
I am just here to challenge you guys to look everybody in the eye. The way that this is set up, you can't see everyone. I don't know if you need to turn your chairs around, but I'm in the background shaking because of how you are not actively listening right now. These people are here on a night where they have homework. We have all gathered to speak directly to you. You need to make eye contact. You need to be listening. I don't know if this is an outside perception, if I'm out of line right here, but just make sure that you are listening, that you are looking at these students who are talking to you right now. Thank you.
My name is Jael Mitchell. I also graduated from CC. I graduated. Class of 2018, and I also work here now as a paraprof. And I have two things that I kind of wanted to point out. The first one, I just wanted to read quite at length a little bit of the first initial anti-racism report that was done by the external group. It says, this is the section that says, balancing administrative leadership and grassroots engagement. The Anti-Racism Initiative at Colorado College will require balanced collaborative partnerships among students, faculty, staff, alumni, administrators, trustees, and other members of the CC community. Advocates for institutional change have expressed the desire for two clearly distinct processes. A, leadership from senior administrators, i.e. the president and others, to take actions against racism and other forms of oppression and marginalization at CC. And B, the opportunity to have a voice, to be heard, and take ownership of the processes involved in the development, implementation, and evaluation of the Anti-Racism Initiative at Colorado College. At times, these two interests appear to be at odds. How does the expectation of direct and decisive action by the Colorado College leadership simultaneously correspond with facilitating and encouraging the agency of students, faculty, staff, alumni, and others at the grassroots level? In reality, the juxtaposition of these two interests is a false dichotomy. Both can occur simultaneously under appropriate conditions. This part's important. The whole thing's important with this meeting. 1, transparency, communication, and collaboration are key aspects of a simultaneous top-down, bottom-up, and middle-out approach to advancing the Anti-Racism Initiative. 2, make space for members of the campus community to openly express concerns and frustrations with the ongoing process of the development of the Anti-Racism Initiative, and offer specific, concrete action steps they propose to establish greater balance between bottom-up and top-down engagement in the initiative. 3, collaborate on the goals of the initiative with faculty, staff, students, and alumni to ensure maximal participation in the initiative. 4, bring alumni back to the college to play a critical role in helping the institution account for past mistakes, explicate the historical legacy of racism at CC, and serve as mentors and guides to current students playing leadership roles in the Anti-Racism Initiative. 5, focus on repairing fractured relationships among all members of the CC community. 6, work toward reconciliation to foster greater understanding, transparency of communication, trust, and reduce adversarial stances between parties. 7, engage in coalition building activities designed to produce partnerships among groups with common goals for the work to establish CC as an anti-racist institution. 8, regularly highlight and praise the efforts and accomplishments of grassroots engagement by students, faculty, staff, and alumni. 9, check in on a regular basis to foster collaboration, trust, and mutual engagement. And so I chuckle because it seems that there's a very clear outline of how this should have gone. And this was released, this is the initial one, so it's not like this was like, there were any edits that were made, like this was, you have 9 very clear steps on how you can process this. And so my question becomes, either a choice was made to not engage with these 9 very clear steps, or we just forgot about them? Because it's very clearly outlined how this process can work, and it's also outlined that this process will be tricky, and it's not going to always be peachy keen, but it's very clear like how you can make it so that it would be transparent. And the fact that it was not transparent makes me question the intention, I want to believe that there was a good intention, but frankly, the deliberate opposition to these 9 very clear directives make me question that. So my second question, I know I've talked a lot, but I'm gonna shut up. I want to comment, I guess, on this idea that I think we get back often of people just doing their jobs, right? Because I feel like a lot of times we have these forums and we have these conversations and the response is, well, I'm just doing my job. I'm just trying to do my job. I'm just trying to do my job. But for generations, the work of racism has been carried out by people who are just doing their job, right? So the people who were slaying Black children in Moses were just doing their job, right? People who were police officers who are carrying out racist acts are just doing their job, right? So what I want to ask, coupled with everything that I read from the original plan, what are other members of the staff, as well as the administration, going to do to stop racism from happening in your everyday actions? And then what kinds of protections are being put in place for people who choose to maybe not do their job, right?
Hey y'all. So we're really appreciative of everyone coming out here to speak, and we value all of the things that you're saying, but for the sake of time, we're just gonna have one more person.
Hi, Nicole, and I just had a question about admissions and why on folders the CC website and advertisement to come to CC has POC on them when that doesn't actually reflect the campus. It's another example of tokenism, because a lot of times my friends have been on those folders, but it's like, that's not what this campus is like. It's a lot of white people. So that's my question, is why is it painting that false picture to other people? And also just to comment on the culture at CC of partying, the fact that a student dressed in a poncho and a sombrero as a Mexican person for Halloween is not okay. And the fact that they feel confident enough to go out like that is not okay. And that this campus allows that is not okay. And that's all.
I just want to thank everybody who came up and talked and asked questions. This is hard, this takes a lot of vulnerability and a lot of courage, and I just want to say to the administration that this is just the beginning. We didn't even scratch the surface because each one of us is intimidated by you being here too. So, and people really went out of their ways, and this is just the beginning. For now, we are giving the administration a chance to respond, to talk, to address any of the things that you heard. So yeah, please come up if you are ready.
I want to start by also thanking all of you who put this together. I want to thank everyone for coming, and I want to thank and express my gratitude to the people who spoke. I know that wasn't easy, and that it was not easy to hear. I'm glad I heard all of you. I think I appreciate the assumption of good intent, because I believe that we have had good intent in trying to move this work forward in recent years. Clearly, we haven't done a good enough job, and I would say that many of you mentioned Kendi, and the entire cabinet read the book and had a lot of discussions about it. And one of the things we really focused on was, I think, to some of your comments, to try to look at the long term and the structure of the institution so that we are not in this cycle of that your history brought up where an incident happens, there's appeasement, and then it happens again and there's appeasement. So we really did try to look at more structural issues. And what I heard tonight is that we failed in not also looking more specifically at current issues and current circumstances on campus, and that to the excellent point that's made that we need to do a better job of honoring the grassroots part of what Dr. Worthington suggested. I am very willing to recognize that this is hard and that I don't have all the answers and I'm not an expert. I honestly am trying, and I greatly appreciate, we have board members here who've been a part of this work. They're committed to it. I've been really committed to it, and my response would be there's such a long list of really important issues that were brought up tonight. Some of those are going to be very difficult to deal with in the short term, and some are going to be, I think we can. So I guess I would say a few things. One, I'd like to recognize the burden put on students to do this work, and say that we will move forward with trying to, we all took notes about addressing specific issues that maybe we could put calls out to bring that grassroots back, and ask that people come to talk about specific issues that were brought up tonight. I heard many of them from my long list, from jobs on campus to financial aid to the block plan to block breaks, and I could go on, training for students, pretty trips, counselors in Betcher, etc. So I will begin working on that, and I invite all of you to, those of you who want to, we'll take what we heard, but I mean, part of the grassroots is that we need your involvement and we need to know how to interact there. You know, it's easier for us in some ways to know how to do what we do from our area. I also don't want to ask, I feel caught sometimes because I also don't want to ask you students to do the work that you've pointed out should be the work of the administration, but we can't do it without your input clearly because we need to hear more from you. So, you know, I thank you. I'm humbled by standing here tonight, and, you know, and to be honest, I feel embarrassed that we didn't get it as right as I hoped we had. But I don't know if anyone else from the team would like to talk, or any of our trustees, but I feel like I can't address this long list tonight. And as I said, I'm overwhelmed, but I promise that we will do a better job in the coming months on the grassroots and hearing students' concerns now, as well as I think it's really critical that we work on long-term structure, policies, procedures, and some of the work that's ongoing, like Dean Edmonds has started the review of the Pathfinder right now, as we know, that's been a point for students. So let me just say again, thank you. Thank you very much. And I promise that we will get to work and continue to try to do better.
Good evening, my name is Jerome D. Herrera. I was in the class of 1997. I'm on the board of trustees, and I've worked with this administration for a long time, and I'm impressed by them and proud of them and their work. Their work has not been perfect. Nobody's work is in this world, but their work comes with great intentions, and they work really hard at what they're doing. So it was hard for me tonight to hear a lot of the criticisms. You know, we're not perfect, the administration's not perfect. You know, I'm not perfect as a trustee, but we put our heart into this place. And I think this place has tremendous value and provides tremendous opportunity to the current students, to our future students, and it did when I was a student here. I was a student in the 1990s, and it was hard then too. But every day I got up, and regardless of what obstacles I faced, I did what I had to do to succeed, so that when I finished, whether this place was perfect or not for me, or comfortable or not, I knew I had to go out into the real world and apply for graduate school, find jobs, things like that. And one of the things that I wanted to hear more of tonight was, look, whether this is a perfect world or not, or whether we have obstacles, we still have to overcome those things. And that's an important lesson, I think.
Guys, please, be respectful, please. Thank you.
That's not true. We don't have to overcome whatever obstacle we're faced with.
My God, many people face many different obstacles than you, and you have no idea what the everyday life looks like for many students on campus who face many obstacles. And we are appreciative, and people are really grateful to be here, but to erase and just like say that we should just be grateful for what people are given by just being here is ignorant. Like, people face really unique challenges. And you have to acknowledge that. And yeah, it is hard to get up every day. It's hard for me every day to get up and be a student at CEC. My parents paid my full tuition, my mom went here, I'm cis, I'm white. Like, it's hard for me. Imagine how it is for students who don't face or don't have any of those advantages. Like, if it's hard for me to get up, how about everyone who talked tonight? Like, it's hard for people to get up here, and that's the problem. Like, yeah, we'll suffer through, but we shouldn't have to suffer through. Like, that's ignorant, dude. Like, come on. Like, no.
I face those obstacles. We all face obstacles in life. And we still need to be optimistic and work hard and appreciate the benefits and the opportunities we do have. Thank you. Sorry, my message was not heard well, or was offensive, but that was, I think, important to say. Thank you.
Excuse me, can I say something? I really appreciate that you really kind of uplift CC. And that's why we're here. Criticism has to be taken seriously. And I see you guys are doing a lot of terrific work. I'm still here because of that. I'm in a graduate. I could have gone to another school if I didn't see good intention from the school. I love this school. I love my friends here. I love my dogs. Don't diminish the work that we're trying to do just because you feel uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable too. I'm on financially, that can be cut at any point. That's terrifying to me.
Thank you. I agree with you completely. And I'm not trying to diminish what we're doing here tonight. I came here because this is important. I came here because it's important to hear you all and to understand the struggle you're going through. We had the same struggles back in the 1990s. Thank you.
I just want to say something. Like, we want to urge the administration that criticism is uplifting. It's not downlifting. It's not like, and this is what we're trying to do here. We're not depreciating what you're doing. We're trying to get better. So we need to change our idea of criticism and how we provide feedback. Because as far as I'm concerned, everybody was respectful and constructive tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, my name is Tafari Munda. I'm a fellow trustee along with Jerome. He's a good dear friend of mine. I worked in the same law firm as he did as I was a young lawyer. First job out of law school, I was working with Jerome. We're fellow trustees together at CC. I'm class of 2005, and it's interesting. I almost want to flip back a couple slides because the Catalyst article, that was my freshman year. Yeah, that was my freshman year. And I remember when the article was published. I remember the response from the president at the time, which was essentially that students of color need to be more present on campus. That the article will result of our actions, essentially. So we took to the streets, and we took there real quick. We held a press conference at the Glass House with 10 demands of things that needed to change. Went to the NAACP at the time. They weren't as helpful as we thought they would be. We thought they would be more helpful, they weren't. So we called the news media. We called 9 News, 8 News, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We called them all in with our demands and brought them to the administration. My sophomore year, we held an anti-hate rally with those same demands. They included training. They included focus on compositional diversity. And I remember at the time there was a professor who I loved, I adored, because I know this professor cared about diversity and inclusion. And when I mentioned training to him, he said, no, professor should not be trained. I believe in this, but I have a PhD. I have all the training that I need. This is the person I knew to be good. But we disagreed on this particular measure. And now here I am today. And I'm proud that we're going to have someone focused on faculty, focused on developing faculty training. I'm proud of that work. Now, I'll speak very briefly that in the wake of the incident, over 4 years, I sat on a number of committees and I was doing the hard work. My sophomore year was the worst year I had grade-wise because I was doing that work. So I get the students in here who are doing this work and then the sacrifice that you make. I thought I wasn't going to get into law school because my grades were lower than what they could have been if I hadn't been doing that work. So what you were doing is important. So if you're passionate about anti-racism, my challenge to you is to keep that passion. Stay frosty, stay woke, stay ready, stay there. We need your passion now more than ever because this initiative isn't just about one person or one plan. It's about us. It's about our values. It's about who we are. It's about who we want to be. We're passionate about those values, as we should be. We're going to argue and debate about those values. And we should. Know this. I'm on the board, baby. Can't nobody fire me. I'm there. I'm there. Make it work. Okay? So my plan with the board member is to ask the administration to have a plan and hold them accountable for that plan. And I challenge you to hold us accountable to the plan, to make it better. Bring your suggestions. It's not your job to do it, but Frederick Douglass says power concedes nothing without demand. You have to have a demand. Tell your stories. Tell your stories. Be passionate about your stories. Bring your suggestions, because I want to hear them. I want to hear them. And we're in a critical moment right now, because as I mentioned before, this isn't just about one person. It's not just about Jill. We're going to be in a period where we're going to be having a transition. There's going to be a new president. And after that, those 4 years, what happened? It happened just the student, goodness, I'm sorry if I didn't catch your name. But you mentioned that what happens oftentimes is an incident, then everyone forgets. And we're right back to that place again. Board members and some of the staff members that are here, the leadership team that we have here, they're that institutional member to keep reminding us of what needs to be done. This is a part of who we are now. Anti-racism is a value for us. When I was a student called anti-hate, today it's anti-racism. And that's all right. And we're going to keep fighting for it. I will do whatever I can to keep holding the ministers accountable for it. But please, keep that passion. Keep that up. I want to see more voices and more opinions, more suggestions. It's crucial. I've spoken too long, but thank you so much for being here. Like I said, stay frosty, stay ready, stay ready, and keep bringing your passion, keep bringing your suggestions, and keep bringing your solutions.
I would also like to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and on the note of demands, the coalition would like to offer the administration an opportunity to fulfill one of our demands from the open letter, which is an apology for the treatment of Dr. Buckley and staff. collaboration and transparency going forward to make the anti-racism initiative work for all people. In the coalition, we will continue our work regardless. So thank you all. And President Color, if you would like to come up here, you're welcome.
Thank you again. I am sorry for what happened with the treatment of Dr. Buckley. The intention of the plan was to get the chief diversity officer in place, and not to get the chief as recommended, but to do the 3-person team as Tafari recommended, we felt was a better solution for our community in terms of embedding someone to really work with the faculty, having someone who really had expertise to work with the staff, and have another person who could work with the students. We felt very strongly at the time that we needed to do national searches. We heard feedback for all of that, and the outcome of that was not what we intended would happen. And I am sorry for how that played out on campus. And I'm sorry for the hurt that it caused the Butler Center, the staff at the Butler Center, for the hurt that it caused students on our campus, and the hurt that it caused to Dr. Buckley.
So just reiterating that we are expecting an open forum like this, and we're expecting that practice to continue. And I want to thank you all for coming out on this snowy night again, and have a great rest of your evening, and thank you so much.